Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielson and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
$11:03 on The Lock Shop. Thank you very much for being here on Edmonton Sports Talk today. If you're listening on TuneIn or iHeart or at EdmontonSportsTalk.com, you can tell your friends how easy it is to listen to us on those platforms. And, of course, you can text us anytime at 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999. And if you're watching over on YouTube today, hammer the thumbs up for us. Obviously, a busy slate in the National Hockey League tonight. Darnell Nurse will not play for the Edmonton Oilers tonight. Probably discuss that a little bit on this show. And then, obviously, we'll get into it on two guys and goalie today as well. Darnell Nurse has played very well this season. What's that blue line look like without him? How much are you going to run the third pair tonight? And we'll get into all of that, dive a little bit deeper into that game on two guys and a goalie today with myself, Cass, and Gager. Pre-game show tonight. 4:00 start for the pregame, right? At Westgate Boston Pizza. Tommy Gazzola will be in the house at Westgate Boston Pizza. So if you want to pop by there after work, swing on by. Tons of prizes and stuff always at that Westgate Boston Pizza, just north of West Edmonton Mall. And Tommy will be on at 4:00. So we'll have the Reed Wilkins Show from 3 to 4. Pre-game from 4 to 5. The Reed Wilkins Show from 5 to 6. And then post-game to follow. But obviously, Reed and Jay will have a lot of discussion as they will have the game on here as they're doing the final hour of their show. All right, lots to get to, man. We got hosed last night. Close one on the Lock Shop Partner Parlay. Hit the over in the Colorado-New Jersey game. Got the Jets as they make it 11 in a row. We'll discuss that with us. And then we just missed out a rare home loss for the Los Angeles Kings as the Canucks take one away from us in overtime. Let's bring in Huss from Winnipeg Sports Talk today. Of course, co-host of the Lock Shop. Huss, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
They had a power play in overtime.
How does that happen?
4-on-3. I mean,
that stung a bit.
Like, I thought they were screwed when they were down 2-0, but everything's just been rolling so well. They came back. I'm
2 in the third, yeah.
And then the arm goes up in OT. I'm like, all right, it's showtime. And then it wasn't. And then and then I realized, oh, my God, we have the partner parlay riding on the shoulders of one big save, Dave. And Dave was not able to make that big save in overtime, unfortunately, and a rare L this week, but it was a fun ride, that's for sure. So, but yeah, big slate of games tonight. Have you been seeing what's going on at the Cognizant?
Well, I've checked the leaderboard a couple of times. I saw Billy Ho had to chase an alligator off the course, apparently. And Jordan Spieth started really well. Like I'm somewhat in the loop, but is there anything of significance? I saw Straka's like T21 right now. I thought one of the other names that we had yesterday was circling around, but have you been keeping tabs on it?
The guy we didn't have is Jake Knapp, who
he shot a 59. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
59. I woke up, I had an early dentist appointment today, and I opened my phone, and my guy Byron Lindeque from the Fantasy Golf Degenerates, very funny and fun golf podcast, if you're looking for one, that's under the Mayo Media umbrella, said, oh, Jake Knapp, not a bad start. I look at the card, birdie, 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 birdie. 5 straight birdies out of the gate. He was 29 on the front 9, and then mixed in another 6 birdies on the back 9 to shoot 30 and get the 59, the 15th sub 60 round in PGA Tour history. But yeah, looking at the early round, this course, I can never remember this course giving up what it did today. 2 of the guys at the top of the odds boards, Russell Henley and Daniel Berger, are both in with 63s. Ricky Fowler had a nice round. Ricky's at 7 under. You mentioned Jordan Spieth. He's at 6. Billy Ho's 5 under for his round, so nice start for Billy. I have a feeling many of the other guys. Sepp Straka is in at 4 under, so a nice start for Sepp. Need that top 20 for him, and a win would be nice too. And then a little later on, I see Pendy is 2 under through 2. That's nice. It's obvious that you got to be throwing serious birdies on this course today if you want to be in the mix.
Did you say Pendy's 3 under through 2?
2 under through 2. Birdie.
2 under through 2. Okay, yeah. I was like, wait a second. He go eagle birdie to start?
Playing on his 3rd hole, and I'm just looking to see where the big guy, Shane Lowry, is. Thought he might have a late start. Where is he's 1 under through 1. So basically everyone's birdieing every hole. Jake Knapp's has a 59. You better bring your putter to work today at PGA now.
I want to slide into well, first of all, I did just watch the video of Billy Ho go and like chase a alligator or crocodile or whatever is a gator back into the water. Huss, if you're playing a golf course and you see an alligator like on your fairway, are you chasing it back into the water? Are you avoiding it? How do you approach this?
I have experienced that personally.
You have? Of course
I have. We were playing at Copperhead in Florida, where the Valspar is. And we were on a big dog leg. I go around the corner, and there was a gator about 15 feet away from me. And no, I did not chase it. I, in fact, went with unusual speed for myself away from it very quickly. But it's
were
funny.
you in a cart or were you not in a cart?
Well, we were playing in carts, but I was actually
around the dog
walking at the time. My partner was over, I don't know, finding a ball somewhere else, and I, as usual, was right in the middle of the fairway, albeit 180 yards from the tee, and the gator was just walking around. So, I mean, it's not like they're coming at golfers, snapping those massive things, but it is a little jarring if you're, Canadian, for instance, and not used to seeing gators live and up close and personal.
I go on a golf trip every June, and we go down to like the Invermere area, and we play a bunch of courses there, and one of the ones we play is Grey Wolf, and it's not uncommon for bears to be next to the green up at Grey Wolf. And I'm usually very excited when they are, because if like I have a ball anywhere on the green and there's a bear like on the fringe, I'm like, mark it down. I mean, I was going to put that in. That's a par at least, if not a birdie. Yeah. Like let's take it and go. Let's move along. There's no 3-putt here. And we've seen a few. One time we saw like a mama bear with a couple of cubs. One year we saw, and I guess bears aren't always trying to kill other animals, because one year there was a bear just off of the green sitting like 10 feet from a deer. Like they were both just chilling. They were just hanging out like they were buddies. I was like, this is strange. I thought that deer would be scared. You know what? Like, get out of there, buddy. But they were just hanging out. So I bumped into, it's not a gator, but a pretty decent sized bear could still scare you a little bit.
Yeah, well, you're one of the few people that it's the size of a bear, so you could have the bear down. How tall are you?
6'5".
6'5"?
Yeah.
Jeez, I was looking even shorter. It's in some of those pictures from Boston. I was going to give you 6'6" or 6'7".
It depends on the shoes, I guess, but yeah, 6'5", barefoot at least. So. I'm a large individual. We just agree on that, I guess. All right. So we'll keep tabs on the Cognizant to see what happens there. We got some new markets, some trade deadline markets, some Ovechkin markets that we can get to, but let's slide over to the National Hockey League, Huss, and the Winnipeg Jets, 11 in a row, getting the job done. And I believe, according to the chat, some fireworks early in that hockey game for Winnipeg, was there not?
Yeah, there was a sketchy hit on Scheifele that wasn't called, that we didn't like very much. And Logan Stanley went at the guy. It was nothing. I mean, there was no fighting majors. It was like he got double roughing, I think. But afterwards, and the guy's name escapes me, but younger player in the league took a pretty good run at Mason Appleton And Adam Lowry gave him a shot afterwards, and he kind of did the "you want to go," and the captain was more than willing. And it was just like right off the bat, a boom, boom, 1-2, left, right. And he got a little bit of a welcome to the NHL moment from the captain of the Winnipeg Jets.
Tyler Kleven.
Yeah, Kleven. Yeah. So good on him for I'll say this. He did better in his first pro fight than Rutger McGroarty did on the weekend.
Rutger McGroarty still out here catching strays, eh? Love it.
Did you see
I
that?
saw his fight. He got absolutely pumped.
He just basically engaged and got smoked 7 times.
Yeah, like hammering. It was like hammering a nail in. Not that I'm great at hammering nails in, but that was like hammering a nail in.
Yeah. But anyways, the Lowry was great to see him back. The Jets were all over Ottawa for a good portion of the game. I mean, and they should have been. There was no Brady Tkachuk, no Pinto, no Norris. But the Jets just went in and took care of business. They did not give up a ton of solid scoring chances to Ottawa. The power plays, actually, it's kind of funny because they win every game, but that power play that's been clicking at a record pace all year has actually cooled down a little bit. I mean, they didn't score on a 5-on-3 last night. They're still at the top of the league. But with this recent cold streak of no power play goals in 4 games, Dusty, they're all the way down to 31.7 on the year. But that still is below the Oilers' record-setting pace. So I'm sure they would like to get that right now. But yeah, listen, I mean, this was another really solid 60 minutes by the Winnipeg Jets. You know that the Jets have not lost a game this year when they've been leading after the first period or the second period.
Really? Not
in
one.
Regulation.
They have
not one.
Like one thing slip away.
It's now like 24, 25, 0-2 after the first period, and the third period is now like 32 or 33, 0-1. Listen, it's a lot of fun watching this team every night and talking about them. But the more we get closer to the deadline with the team playing the way they are, you hear more people. Like usually everyone's like, you got to go and get every guy, be aggressive as you can. More and more people watching this. And I just was speaking with Steve Coolius, and he was sort of this opinion to maybe not do too much, not tinker with too much of a good thing. Now, I still think that we're going to see a significant ad or two for the Winnipeg Jets. But I'll tell you what, it's going to be really tough to decide who's coming out of the lineup when you're bringing these players in, especially up front. I mean, last night, a fourth line, David Gustafson's playing really well. Rasmus Kupari has been great. Alex Iafallo will be in the lineup under all circumstances. But, you get Morgan Barron back, and then who's out of the lineup? You add another player or two. I mean, there will be some tough decisions for the Jets, but they put themselves in a really, really good spot right now. The odds are coming down a little bit. I'm seeing The Athletic now running their numbers, gives the Jets the best chance of winning the cup. So, what this team needs to do is just keep doing what they're doing and get first place in the West. They can get the President's Trophy, great. I want all the banners. But what's really important is that number 1 seed. Because I think for the Jets, considering the recent playoff history, to get Calgary or Vancouver in the first round and hopefully really feel good about yourselves after preferably a short series would put you in a good shape, because that second round, likely against the Dallas Stars, in a lot of ways, it sort of feels like 2018 when the Jets went to the conference final. They didn't win the Central Division that year, and yet they were second overall in the NHL. The Nashville Predators were number 1. So, you're number 2 overall. You win your first round in 5, and then you're starting on the road. Now, that won't be the case this year, but the Dallas Stars, when you look at the overall standings right now, are actually ahead of all the teams in the Pacific Division. So, I mean, it could very well be 1 and 2 in the West in the second round. But, I mean, I'm sure you'd agree there's a significant drop-off after those top 4 teams than either Vancouver or Calgary and what they might be capable of coming in as an 8 seed.
100%. I mean, the Oilers technically right now have the 5th best winning percentage in the West. Dallas, Winnipeg, Los Angeles and Vegas right now with better winning percentages than the Edmonton Oilers. So yeah, you definitely, you want to get that top spot. You want to face the 8th seed. I want to just quickly on the Jets here. Jake over in the chat has the Jets' upcoming schedule: Nashville, Philly, Islanders, Philly, Devils, then Carolina, New York, and Dallas. When do you think this streak ends, Huss? Because it's Nashville tonight, right?
Nashville tonight, second end of a back-to-back. Comrie will be in for the Winnipeg Jets. But I just found out that Roman Yossi's not going to be playing for the Predators.
Okay.
So that's a big drop. I mean, at some point, they're going to drop one of these games. And you know what? Nashville gets up to play Winnipeg. It's a division rivalry. They actually beat them in Nashville earlier on this year, although there's going to be a lot of Winnipeggers in the building tonight. I probably would be at this game if we didn't have the globe-trotting of the last month. I have a bunch of buddies that are going to be down there showing up. But let's give them tonight's game, and I won't do that. I mean, I think they'll have a good chance to win, but it could easily go the other way. Getting into March, I mean, you've got the one home game against Philly, and then you go on a pretty tough, busy 4-game road trip. Islanders, Philly, Jersey, Carolina. I mean, if you're just looking at records, certainly, I mean, that second night of a back-to-back on trade deadline day, March 4th, against the Devils would be tough. But, I mean, there's no gimmies. You can't really assume anything. You'd have to beat Philly twice in a short period of time to get there. And that's a team that, you got to earn your wins against. I don't really know what to expect from the Islanders. And then, of course, you got Carolina on Sunday. But in the meantime, they're just going to look to keep on stacking points, get closer to the goal of winning the division and being number one in the West, and getting ready for the playoffs. Your squad tonight has another interesting game. Two teams that know each other well. They went the distance in the Cup final last year, but neither of them are looking like top Cup contenders right now. The Panthers playing without Matthew Tkachuk as he does a whirlwind media tour, and the Oilers looking nothing like the team that won the West coming out of the Four Nations break.
Yeah, it's interesting. And just looking at this line, because I put together an EST parlay today, and I'm just running back the one that we had on Tuesday. Draisaitl over 1.5 points, Bouchard point, and the Oilers to win. And it's plus 400, I believe, if you want to get it. It's available on the exclusives page over at Coolbet. They were plus 101 underdogs this morning. That number's now plus 118. So that's a pretty decent size move. Darnell Nurse is not going to play in this game. I guess that's the reason for that much of a movement on a money line play in this game. Nurse has been one of the true bright spots on this team this season. It'll be interesting to see how the blue line holds up without him. They've gone back to Nugent Hopkins playing with McDavid and Draisaitl. With McDavid and Hyman. Draisaitl's going to center Arvidsson and Skinner, who had scored and then was a healthy scratch and now gets to play with Leon Draisaitl. So, I mean, like the lines don't matter if they don't come out and give a damn tonight. And that's something that they've been severely lacking. But I can't think of a better stage to like get your game back on track than against the Florida Panthers, the team back in the barn where they took the Stanley Cup from you last year. They don't have Matthew Tkachuk. Like, a lot of signs point towards the Oilers figuring it out here, but I also have no faith in the team that we've seen the last 3 games. And if Darnell Nurse is out, I mean, is a team that's described as fragile by their coach 2 days ago. Are they fragile? Are they so fragile that losing one of their top 2 defensemen this year, kills them right off the start? So I have no read on this game tonight at all, buddy. I don't know what I do know is if they play tonight like they did against Tampa and over the weekend, tomorrow morning's show is going to be a tire fire. Like it's going to be full blown week before trade deadline Edmonton meltdown, and we will do our best to kind of keep it on the rails.
Is Stewie Skins going again tonight?
Stuart Skinner is going to start tonight. Had one bad goal against Tampa, but the team in front of him was much worse than he was in that hockey game. So they're gonna run it back with him tonight against the Florida Panthers. And it would go a long way if he was required to steal one and actually did it. But I mean, Connor McDavid hasn't done much lately. Anybody outside of Leon Draisaitl over the last 3 games has not been good, with the exception of, I guess, your expectations from Matt Savoy, and he's going to be scratched tonight. So we'll see where this one goes. But early start out here in Edmonton tonight, 5:00 start, so people can be angry from about 8 until 9, and then go to bed early tonight. So we'll see how this one plays out.
I was talking to Cooley earlier today for WST. And we were talking about the Oilers, and I'm like, what's going on with this team? I mean, are they just waiting to kind of gear up for the playoffs? And he said, they're sort of showing that you can't just decide to play when you want to. And, they're far away from their A game right now. But we got talking about goaltending. Do you expect the Oilers to make a move in net?
No.
And whether it would be trying to make a run at Binnington or Gibson. And if they did make that trade, is Stu Skinner going the other way?
If it's Binnington, I think Skinner would have to go the other way. But I don't like, I know Stan Bowman, I think, told Sarah Volley, or I think LeBron was in on it as well, that they're not going to trade for a goalie. I don't think they will either. I know there's a lot of people in town who would like to see them. I think, to me, if you're trading for a goalie, you're doing it to upgrade Pickard and for somebody to push Stuart Skinner. Like, even the John Gibson conversation in this town, in my opinion, has gotten pretty tired. Like, you would have never said 4 months ago, trade Stuart Skinner to get John Gibson. John Gibson's numbers had been trending in the wrong direction for 3 years. Noodles has this stat about how over the last 3 seasons, he's left 29 games, whether it was being pulled or he just didn't feel good and left the game. Like, there's not a lot of, I don't think you have a lot of faith in the reliability of John Gibson. So I think Skinner's going to be the guy for them. The one area where I find it somewhat like maybe a reasonable conversation is that Stuart Skinner wasn't drafted or signed by Jeff Jackson and Stan Bowman. Like, there would be no loyalty. It was never like they chose him as the guy. He was just the guy that they inherited between the pipes. But, he's 26 years old. He's in essentially at this point his 3rd full season. And the other 2 years ended up in a Game 7 of the Stanley Cup final and the Calder nomination. So, like, he's not a disaster. His numbers this year have not been good, but I still think there's a goalie there. So for me, it would be a mistake to move Skinner. Getting a guy who can push him a little bit more than Pickard does, I got some time for that. I don't know if that guy's out there. I don't know if they want to spend assets on that guy. But to me, that's where the goaltending conversation probably has to be in Edmonton.
Interesting. Well, I mean, I know there'll be a lot of talk about that over the course of the next week. Just looking into the chat. George Conlon, Huss, how many bacon portobello mushroom melts have you had? I've had, and the thing is, I've been away for a while.
Are they back limited time? Back. Is that what's going on right now?
They are back.
Okay.
They are back. We're in bacon mushroom melt season right now at Wendy's. I probably haven't had 10, but I'm in the 7 to 8 range, I would say. Couple of them have been doubles as well, to be full disclosure.
And how long have they been back for? Like since February 1st or something?
Yeah, like sometime kind of in, basically this past month. But again, I was away for two of the weeks. Now, D-Rock is saying, Huss, regular season means nothing, Huss. Sorry to break your heart. My heart is not broken. This team is great. You know what else means nothing, D-Mart? Previous seasons. Like, what matters is how good your team is. And this team is really good. Now, I mean, no one's planning the parade or anything like that. But I think that if you realistically look around the National Hockey League at teams that can win the Stanley Cup, the Jets are certainly in that group. And based on what they've done so far this year, would probably be near the top of that group. The thing that's really interesting about Winnipeg is that, and Dusty, I think we've talked about this before, people been going like, what the heck's going on with this Jets team?
Yeah.
You got a new coach that came in Arneal, although he was with the club before. And like, make no mistake about it, I get why people sort of look at Winnipeg and go, well, let me know what happens in the playoffs, because they were brutal between games 2 and 5. I mean, they weren't even close to the team they were in the regular season. This wasn't a matter of a team that wasn't stepping up for the playoffs. I mean, they literally saved their worst week of hockey for that. Now, full credit to the Avalanche. They were really good. But I mean, they acknowledge that. They've accepted it. They came in this year owning the disappointment of the last couple seasons, and they've been incredibly focused on what they need to do to continue to be better, to give them a chance to, prove some people wrong that don't believe in them because of the last couple of years. And then you add in the Four Nations, Dusty. And like, this to me is a really interesting sidebar to many teams' seasons, but maybe more so in Winnipeg than anywhere else. Of the top players on the team, you've got Connor Hellebuck, who is even better this year than he was before. He is going to get Hart votes. He's running away with the Vezina Trophy. He is so focused on, and he said before, I love the person. It's great that I won these personal awards. I'm here for one reason, and it's to win the Stanley Cup, and I believe I can win it here, and that's why he re-signed. So you've got Hellebuck coming out of the Four Nations, where he played very well, but of course gave up the goal to Connor McDavid, and that's not on him. I mean, good idea. If you want to win, don't leave the best player in the world all alone in front of the net in overtime. But again, he comes out of that, I think, even more focused and wanting to be on the right side of that. Kyle Connor spent the last game of the tournament in the press box, which was an insane decision that backfired big time on the U.S., but he wasn't there, so he's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder. Morrissey didn't get to play in the final because he was ill. And maybe more so than any of those guys, Mark Scheifele wasn't even on the team. And Scheifele, who desperately wants to be able to represent Canada in best on best, I think knows that the greatest service he could do for his candidacy as a member of Team Canada is give people no chance but to watch him play in the third round of the playoffs, in the fourth round of the playoffs. I mean, that is where you'll get all the focus, all you need, because you'll be playing at the biggest time of the year. So, listen, you can't fault any Jet fan for being fired up and pretty optimistic about where they are this year. Like Mitch Holtz used to say about the Chiefs, I'll use it for the Jets. You can doubt the Jets, you can disrespect the Jets, but at some point you're going to have to deal with the Jets. And not a lot of teams have dealt with the Jets very well this season. Just look at the NHL standings.
Oh, boy. I like it. Speaking of NHL, we've got a huge slate here tonight, Huss. So I didn't give you the starting goalies. We'll get into we'll build a little parlay. We've got an Ovechkin record-breaking market up and some trade deadline stuff that we can get to as well. But first, let's whip through this schedule and put together, hopefully, a winning partner parlay. If you have any suggestions for this, if you're watching over on YouTube today, first of all, hammer the thumbs up for us. Give us those likes here on the Lock Shop, the underdog in the EST Show of the Year at the Estes. So let's keep hammering those for us. And feel free to chime in. You can text us, of course, at 780-218-9999. Stuart Skinner confirmed to start for the Oilers tonight, and he'll be going up against Game 7 nemesis Sergei Bobrovsky. Buffalo is in Carolina tonight. Kochetkov and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen both listed as likely at this point. The Capitals at home against the St. Louis Blues. Charlie Lindgren confirmed for the Caps. Joel Hofer will go for the St. Louis Blues tonight. Samuel Montembeault will get the start for the Montreal Canadiens. Georgiev for the San Jose Sharks. Vasilevsky confirmed for the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Calgary Flames rolling into town there. Dustin Wolf will start for the Flames. Islanders at Bruins tonight. Also a 5 o'clock Edmonton time start. All these games so far starting at 5 tonight. Jeremy Swayman and Sorokin both unconfirmed at this point. Cam Talbot is listed as likely for the Red Wings. They're at home against Tarasov and the Columbus Blue Jackets. Samuel Ersson will start for the Flyers on the road against their rivals in Pittsburgh. Nedeljkovic will start for the Penguins. Preds and Jets tonight. Unconfirmed at this point, but, Comrie's going to go for the Jets. Saros is unconfirmed for the Predators. Vejmelka will likely start at this point for Utah. Gustafsson for Minnesota. Aiden Hill and Mrazek unconfirmed for that Hawks Golden Knights game. And then in the late game tonight, one of the 2 late games, the Canucks, Shilovs, and Lucas Dostal for the Ducks, both unconfirmed at this point. There is no shortage of action tonight, Huss. Lots of options for us to put together something juicy.
Yeah, big time. And, a couple of really tight lines as well. Basically a pick 'em between the, well, this is weird. What did you say the Oilers-Panthers line was earlier?
It was plus 118 10 minutes ago.
Okay, is this old right now? Because I saw it earlier today it was a pick 'em. It was minus 108, minus 110.
Yeah.
And now it's plus 115 for the Oilers and minus 135 for the Panthers.
Yeah. And the only thing that would have changed here is that Darnell Nurse isn't playing. Like, I don't think there's been any other news that would have impacted the line like that.
He's still there. I thought he was being run out of town last year.
No, he's now run back into town. People love him now. Yeah, Bouchard's the one now. He's the next target. So yeah, we'll see what happens on that front.
Yeah, well, Bouchard, there's some things Bouchard does well, and there's some things that he.
The thing is that when the things he does really well, he does really, really, really well. And the areas he has issues in, he has really, really blatant issues in. It's
kind of important issues.
Yeah,
when it comes to paying attention in your own end, covering guys, playing defense.
Five turnovers the other night. But I mean, he's also got 8 points in his last 8 games. Like there's areas, and he's done it before. Like he's been a much better defenseman before than he has so far this year, which I think is why more people are frustrated, and everybody's just absolutely panicking about the contract and where.
Yeah, does he need a new deal in the offseason?
He needs a new deal. Yeah. So I mean, the rumor around town was his agent was going to ask for like 11 after the season he put up last year. And you're like, well, you can't do that. Some people want to be like, give him 7. I think it probably comes in somewhere around that Darnell Nurse number, which then just adds on to the pressure of the guy in the city because people are going to be, I mean, if they're all over him and what he's making now, they're going to torch him if he's making 9 and turning it over up the middle in the defensive zone. So kind of a lose-lose unless not really. I guess he's going to get like $70 million, but still, tough spot.
Well, he just needs to play a bit better. I mean, and, have a little more attention to detail defensively. I mean, it's great to get those points, but when you're on the highlight reels in both ends quite often, that's going to drive coaches crazy, some fans crazy, and I think does raise legitimate questions as to, do you invest massive money, a big percentage of your cap, on a guy that, does some things that help you win hockey games and some others, if you're playing big minutes, that need to be better. Anyways, let's run through. I mean, the Caps at minus 167, coming off that loss to the Calgary Flames at home a couple nights. I think that's an attractive number. The Caps have been so good this season. I would say, much like Winnipeg yesterday at minus 144, seems like pretty good value for a team that has been such a lock to win most nights. And certainly St. Louis, to their credit, actually has had a pretty good start coming out of the break. I mean, they lost to the Jets in the shootout, and then they won their last couple of games. And I think they put up, 7 against the Kraken?
Yeah, it was
for
7
us the other day. That being said, I mean, I think the Capitals have proven that they're in different territory with this club. So, I mean, that certainly would be a possibility for something in on the parlay. Normally I would say, like we did on Tuesday or yesterday, I guess, this is a great spot to get in on the Jets. This is a little tougher. I will say that my spidey senses are tingling a little bit about this game, just in that the law of averages are that there's going to be a loss at some point soon. That loss is far more likely to have if Hellebuck isn't in net. That is the case tonight. Eric Comrie's getting the start. And again, you're traveling 2 hours after the game, getting there. Like, it would not at all surprise me if they win this game, and I think that I'd have to say I do expect them to, but I'd say it's more like a 55, 60, 40 sort of thing, as opposed to like last night when we were pretty sure that with what Ottawa was throwing out, would get that win. Huge game between Columbus and Detroit. And again, these teams are playing tonight, and then they're playing again on the weekend in that outdoor game at the Horseshoe. Detroit's minus 164 coming off that win the other night against both of those teams won and beat pretty good teams. Detroit beat the Wild. Columbus won at home against Dallas. Columbus has been a pretty good home team. I'm just going to check these splits again for the Blue Jackets. Yeah, 19-6-4 at home, but 9-16-4 on the road. And meanwhile, the Wings are basically the same in both. 4 games above 500 on both sides. But I will say this. I think Detroit, even though I'd like maybe a bit better of a number at minus 164, is something that I would consider. Man, I got a tough time picking the Islanders and Bruins. I kind of fading both of those teams right now.
Yeah, that's almost a stay away, I think.
The Islanders got their asses kicked by the Rangers 5-1, and then the Bruins blew that game against the Toronto Maple Leafs. The one thing I'll say about the Bruins, and it's funny that they're a slight home dog in this game. They were certainly a lot more into their game with Toronto than the Islanders were. And the one thing about that Islanders loss at home to the Rangers, you do wonder if this is just the precursor to Lou kind of throwing out the white flag and then potentially making some moves. I mean, there's a lot of guys in that dressing room right now that are hearing their names kicked around in rumors. And when you play a game like that, you find out quite quickly that that's just going to increase. I guess if we want to get a plus money, now again, we faded the Wild the other day against Detroit because they were without Eriksson Ek and they know that they're without Kaprizov. They are an unbelievable road team, as we've talked about before. They're plus 153 at home against Utah. And I mean, the Utah club they sort of feel like the Jets in the first year that they came back. Everyone just sort of happy to have a team, happy they're there. Although they have won a couple games in a row, albeit home games, 2-1 over the Blackhawks, 2-1 over the Canucks. I'm not sure that they make it 3 in a row. If I would be in for taking a bit of a swing at a bigger number with the Minnesota plus 153 with Gustafsson and net, just the way they play. This team has earned the benefit of the doubt with guys out all year long, especially on the road. The record speaks for itself on there, and not too sold on Utah. I don't know. This Philly-Pittsburgh game is a pick'em. It's in Pittsburgh. Philly, I think, beat them. Was it 6-1 in their last outing? Let me just pull this up. Yeah, 6-1 at home in their last game against Pittsburgh. And now they go back at them, albeit on the road. It just seems like Pittsburgh is kind of in that Islanders situation right now where nothing seems to be going right for them. I mean, they've given up 6, 5, 8, and 3. And they've lost to Philly twice in their last 4 games.
Yeah, Philly's won 3 in a row, 2 after the break, the one against Edmonton. But the game right before the break, they beat Pittsburgh as well. So they've beaten Pittsburgh in 2 of their last 3 games. So I mean, do they do it for a third time in a row? Or do the Penguins are like, okay, enough of this, you know what? Like let's get back on track here. But yeah, straight up pick 'em. That's an interesting one.
Sid's playing, Malkin's playing. I mean, you got Russ there. Kevin Hayes still kicking around, cashing a check. Their blue line. I mean, they're still doing it with Letang and Erik Karlsson. Do you think the Canucks would have juice left, Huss? After last night, minus 133 in Anaheim, they've won 8 in a row against the Ducks. I mean, is that something that the overtime momentum carries over into tonight? Well, listen, I think it's the fact that they got Quinn Hughes back. I mean, you want to talk about a team that's different with him on it. And, Anaheim very quietly has been one of the hotter teams in the league. Now, they've lost their last 2 in Detroit, in Buffalo. But before that, had won 7 of 8. And they've beaten some good teams. They beat the Kings. They beat the Stars.
Bruins that is a nice little run. Good. Yeah.
But I'm sort of with you. I know that it is back-to-back nights, but the Vancouver Canucks needed to get on a bit of a roll, because I tell you what, Calgary's not going anywhere. Like, they might not have the firepower of the other playoff teams, but man, they make you earn it. And I don't mind the Canucks in this spot with Hughes back, getting Anaheim in this situation, knowing that points right now, especially when you're playing some of those teams that you quote unquote should beat.
Yeah.
You really got to have those when you're talking about a team that's got a 1-point lead on Calgary. But of course, Calgary's got a game in hand. Calgary's got a tough one tonight against the Tampa Bay Lightning. So, I've got time for Vancouver if we want to put that into the list of picks to consider.
780-218-9999. D-Rock, I think on that Penguins-Philly game, he says play the over in that one. Was that the matchup? Was it Pittsburgh and Philly that was like the steady diet of overs forever? Like, it was one of the automatic bets. You remember that story?
I think so, yeah.
I think it was like when those guys play, you bet the over. And I'm just looking, 3 of their last 4 games, 7-6, 7-3, 3-2, 6-1. So, I mean, it's set at 5.5. So whether we put in a parlay or not, I mean, that could be a standalone play on the over in that game, which is what is it at here? -122 on the over 5.5 and the Fire. Anyway, I think it was the Flyers and Penguins for like a good stretch there. It was just like an automatic hit the over in that one. But yeah, I think I don't mind the Canucks being in the spot that they're in. As you mentioned, Washington at -167 as well. I mean, from a parlay perspective, the San Jose Sharks, you just saw them against the Jets. Montreal's played well since the break. They beat Carolina 4-0. They're 2-0 since coming back from the break. It's a big game for them. It's -217. It's -130 in regulation there. I mean, there's a number of playable numbers kicking around this board tonight.
Where are you at on Minnesota? +153.
Ooh. Are they the biggest dog on the board tonight? Oh no, there's a couple. Sharks are +182.
Yeah, I mean, Calgary. I mean, like realistically bettable underdogs. I mean, if you buy into them coming back after that, loss to Detroit, the way that it happened.
You talked about the home road splits too, right? Like,
it's insane. They're like a 500 team at home, and on the road, they're 21-7-3.
21-7-3, and Utah is actually Utah's 11-12-6 at home. So they've played 29 games at home and only won 11 of them. So I can see where you're coming from on Minnesota at +153. So if we took Minnesota, let's say, and Vancouver, and then Huss, you laid out a lot of other options there. What else could we throw in here? Which one do you like the best?
Listen, either Detroit at home against the Blue Jackets or the Caps at home against the Blues. I mean, either one of those, like if we put in Capitals,
similar number anyway.
We're at +609.
Yeah.
And if we put in Detroit, it's +613. But we're over 6-1 before a boost with either of those games. And to be honest, I like Washington against St. Louis. I like Detroit against Columbus. I'm fine with either of those.
I like Washington. I think I like Washington a little bit more. Let's throw Washington in there. So it'd be Washington -167, Vancouver -133, and Minnesota, which gives us a really nice boost up to over 6-1 pre-boost at +153. You good with that?
Yeah. Let's do it. Like
all right,
James tonight.
Jake, lock that in. Lock that in, Jake.
3 money line, Caps, Canucks, Wild tonight, and we'll get that up in the exclusives. I will cook something up for WST later on today, and we'll have that in the exclusives as well. Man, we were close last night with a +975. It was Jets to win, Connor and Velarde to score. Connor got his goal in the third period, and then they had that 5-on-3.
And that's Velarde time. Isn't he the net guy?
Velarde time. It's funny, though. Velarde, I think, is more dangerous at 5-on-4 than 5-on-3. Because at 5-on-3, he really was just in front of the net, occupying one of the defenders, there for a tip if they need it. But they were sort of setting up for a more point-blank shot where you're getting the goaltender moving. Whereas at 5-on-4, he's sort of down low and has about 2 or 3 different moves, whether it be passing or just taking it himself to score. So anyways, we just missed that one, but we will get that one in a little bit later on. But we should get to this. And I saw this. I was doing the Coolbet lines yesterday on WST. I'm like, oh, we've got some very interesting new offerings now.
Yes, we do.
From the gang at Coolbet. Now, we'll get to the trade deadlines in a second, but which team will Alex Ovechkin score his 895th regular season goal against this season? Now, if you can pull it up, he's got how many right now?
He is 12 away with 24 games left.
12 away with 24 games left. Okay, let's pull up this Washington Capitals schedule.
Let's see here.
Because
Caps sked. Here we go. All right. So, you'll find these if you go to NHL and then click on futures, you'll see it in there. It's under NHL season specials 24-25. Will not score the record breaker is plus 175 this year. He will not score the record breaker this season is plus 175. Then you get to Carolina Carolina and Columbus and New York are 5-1. How far out are those, Huss?
Okay, so I've just pulled up their schedule, and I guess they play tonight. So they play tonight, then Tampa. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. If he did it on a goal a game pace, it's the Panthers game on the 22nd. If he did 12 and 13, that's right here in the peg. And you know, it's funny. We've been talking about this game all season long before he got hurt, that this could totally be inside the window. And if you think back, man, there are so many players that have hit major milestones against the Winnipeg Jets. I mean, Gretzky did it. Yager did it. Stamkos with his 60th in the final game of the season. I mean, I know that this is a different Jets team. They haven't been giving a lot up, but that's a number that I think we'll be paying close attention to as it gets closer. But I think you really have to look at the teams after that. So the 14th game is Minnesota. They're 20-1. The 15th game is Buffalo. They're 15-1. And then we move into April. So I think this is sort of where they're expecting.
Well, and this is where you see the Hurricanes, Jackets, and Islanders at 5-1 because he plays them each twice in April. So I mean that's why those three teams would be elevated. You know, a pretty good bump above everybody else.
The Columbus, what's the Columbus number?
It's 5-1, and he gets them back to back in the third and fourth final games of the year. It's a weekend set. A home and home with Columbus.
You know what? I think that's where I'm going to go with it. So that would basically be, we're talking about getting 12 goals in about 20 games or so.
Yeah.
And if you get to that point, to your example, you've got 2 chances to do it. I'm going to bet that. I'm in on Columbus Blue Jackets. 5-1 on those 3 again, because it's April and they all get 2 games. I mean, if you think he's going to go on a tear and you want to hit on one of those other ones, Buffalo or Minnesota or even Winnipeg, I think that's the earliest time it would possibly be happen. But I'm looking at that. I think they do want to get it done before the end of the season for sure, and have it put to bed. And the funny thing is about Columbus games, I mean, before Columbus games were sort of snoozers, not anymore. They score a ton and they give up. So to me, Columbus at 500, I'm going to lock that in.
I'm with Jake over in the I like the Columbus play as well, but from oh my God, storybook sort of record-setting night, final game of the season against Sidney Crosby and the Pittsburgh Penguins, like that would be a pretty cool way to see it go down.
That would happen who's the NFL? It would happen that way because they have the script. I'm just not sure whether
it's all scripted that way
in the NHL.
All right, we only got a couple minutes left, so we can spend more time on it. But let's just look at the deadline, and we can get into this a little bit tomorrow because a week away from the deadline. Here are a few of the things they've got up right now. We've got Nicholas Robertson. What team will he be on March 8th? Dylan Cousins. What team he will be on March 8th? Mikko Rantanen, March 8th. Carolina Hurricanes minus 556 or any other team plus 300. So if you think the Canes are going to move Rantanen, you can get just any Rantanen trade at 3-1. And then which organization will Seth Jones be with on March 8th? Any other team is plus 275. Chicago's 3-1. Blue Jackets, Stars, Panthers following after that. Huss, which one do you want to dive in here today? What do you think?
Well, the Seth Jones one's the most interesting to me. I mean, I don't know if you heard what he had to say.
He does not want to be there anymore, right? So
no, he's been. And now listen, he was more than happy to take their money and play in a situation that I think he sort of knew was going to be a bit of a rebuild, but that gets old fast. I mean, I don't know whether I'd want Seth Jones for $9.5 million, to be perfectly honest. I mean, it's not like he sucks, but I mean, that's big time. That's all-star money. I guess there's a possibility Chicago could retain. And if you're talking about a guy like that on your books for, say, 7.5 until 2030, I think you could live with that. And it's probably worth giving up something for. There's so much smoke about the Dallas Stars.
Yeah.
And, I think they could use some help on the blue line to beef it up even more. You got Heiskanen that's out until the playoffs, maybe not even until the second round. And again, we're talking about a player with some significant term on his contract. The one thing Dallas does have is some really talented young players, not necessarily picks, but players that they could trade. We've heard potentially Maverick Bourque being on the move just because of how stacked they are up front. So to me, that Dallas number at 350 is intriguing. I'm surprised that Columbus is plus 350. I mean, I know he had some success there earlier, but that would seem sort of strange for Columbus to get in on that and be trading with Chicago at this point. The Blackhawks are, of course, 3-1. I mean, maybe this is a trade that's easier to do in the offseason, to be honest. And if that's the case, I think you can just hold on to it. But, man, it seems pretty toxic, and it sure sounded like he wanted out. I don't know how the Florida Panthers fit him in there. A team like Detroit, potentially. Interesting that Colorado and then Calgary is there. Calgary sort of stood out. But, again, Calgary might be a team that he, you'd know where he'd be playing, and he'd probably be playing big minutes in a significant role for the next 5 years. But I would say of those, to me, Dallas, based on what I've heard and what that fit was, he's also from there. I think probably would be where I would go. What are you tabbing if you're hitting the Seth Jones?
I mean, I don't hate him just staying where he is at 3-1, buddy.
Yeah,
it just this seems
trade to make.
This seems
Big
more
contract.
like draft weekend trade type of thing than deadline trade. So to just have him not be traded at 3-1, I think that's probably where my money would go on the Seth Jones thing. What's coming up on Winnipeg Sports Talk, Huss? What do you got going on?
Oh, well, Steve Koulias, with all of his unbridled energy and passion for the game of hockey, will be joining us. Brandon Rowicki's going to jump on. We'll head out to Music City. Our pal Max Hers help us set up this one tonight and get the latest on the Preds. And we've got a big Whiskey Fest event tonight with WST. So we'll tee up that and the Whiskey Festival with our pal John Waldman from the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame and one of the fellows from Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries. Yes, the Maker's Mark Masterclass tonight for the WST crew, and then watching Jets and Preds at the Hall of Fame. So it's going to be a real fun night and a fun show coming up.
Yeah, well, have fun with that, buddy, and we'll check in with you tomorrow. Jets looking to make it 12 in a row, and the Oilers looking to find a way to win. And we'll continue that conversation on Two Guys and a Goalie coming up here at noon on Edmonton Sports Talk. Thank you very much for joining us on the Lock Shop today. Best of luck tonight, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.